my name is Matt Foss, and this is the Montana Shakespeare in the Parks Reverse Tour, Postcards from the Road for Seeley Lake, Montana. Seeley Lake is a beautiful lake tucked in between the Mission Mountains and Swan Mountains along Highway 83, just north and east of Missoula. I never got to perform in Seeley Lake, but it was a place where we would often take a dip or spend a day off when we were in the western part during the western swing of our tour. Seeley Lake was exciting for me because it was the home of Norman Maclean, or at least where his family's summer cabin sat. But it was also the setting for some of the most important scenes in Norman Maclean's A River Runs Through It. I first read this book while I was living in Red Lodge, working for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks as a fire ecologist, long before I knew I was going to be an actor. But it was helping make sense of that first crucial experience in Montana, its articulation of what it meant to be there, what the landscape was like, meant the world to me. But even more so, its description of family and love, and this experience I was having working out in the Beartooth Mountains changed my life. Norman Maclean described his book, this small little book, as a collection of stories that are love stories. Story of his love and craft, of what men and women can do with their hands, and of his love of seeing life turned into literature. And as I did my first tour with Montana Shakespeare in the Parks, I found this old copy that I've had since I was a young man, and would bring it in to our long truck and van rides and pass it around to the company. It was incredibly apt to read this. This is one of the most special things about Shakespeare in the Parks, is that we are working with our hands and have this tangible evidence of the power of story. There's very little barriers between us and the audience. We're incredibly accountable for making sure that the set gets put up, taken away, fixed, maintained. And then when you share a meal with the audience after sharing this story, you gain an expertise you're not always afforded in dark rooms with artificial barriers of space when we return to Chicago, New York, Seattle, LA. There's no other company in the country like this, providing free Shakespeare in the communities, in their spaces, sometimes living in their homes. It's incredibly special. And if anything, these postcards from the road, I hope, are helping that share that story during what is a difficult time for so many people, of the strength of both stories and these communities. And for those communities out west, how much you are loved and missed, and how much it is a privilege to serve you. I'd love to talk a little more about Seeley Lake. It's an incredible lake where we'd love to swim. The people there are incredible. Lindley's Steakhouse is one of the best in Montana. You can hike up into the mountains and see Gus, the world's largest western larch tree, Larix occidentalis. Larch are incredible trees. The tamarack, larch or tamarack, what they're called. They're a deciduous evergreen, which means that they shed their beautiful soft leaves, pine needles, in the fall after they've turned into a beautiful gold. And these tamarack trees feature in the book. I would always try to find a stand of them and picture Norman and Paul, and a river runs through it as they come in after swimming in the lake, before Neil and his companion arrive to go on an ill-fated fishing trip. Norman Maclean relates to Shakespeare in the Parks in some really amazing ways beyond just a beloved fly fishing novel. It's more than that. He's more than that as a writer. He was a Shakespeare scholar who taught for years at the University of Chicago, not writing River Runs Through It too much later in his life, after he was 7. And he wrote with the same precise language about these plays that we all loved. In his most famous essay on King Lear, Norman Maclean says, at a high level of universality, to write anything well, whether it be intellectual or imaginative, it is to assume at least two obligations: to be intelligible and to be interesting. And this is quintessential Shakespeare in the Parks. One of the biggest notes that we would always give from our beloved Joel Janke was, you must be more interesting than the kid throwing frisbee in the park. But if you speak the text, the speech clearly, invested with deep human truth, if you are engaged authentically and sincerely and urgently with your partner, that kid with the frisbee is going to come and listen to the story. And that was true time and time again. Later in the essay, Maclean is talking about Hamlet's soliloquies, that it should come to this, to be or not to be. Or at the end of Hamlet's tragic moment, Maclean says, it is quoting Hamlet, if it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it will not be now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. And this is Maclean speaking. In themselves, it, to come, be, will, and all are some of the smallest, least precise, and colorful words in our language. But words are so important that from the least of them can be made the uttermost in meaning and emotion. The suffering of humankind triumphed over by some slight touch of serenity. Let be. And this makes great sense as I was driving down Highway 83 near Seeley Lake on my last night in Montana, on my last tour before I was flying to Detroit to start my doctorate work. The mountains were on fire. It was late in the summer, and both the Mission and the Swans were burning. And I wept. I was weeping. This, if you haven't got to read these books, they make sense of that kind of beloved loneliness, or that feeling of being so happy and so sad that you don't know what to do. Montana Shakespeare in the Parks and this shared geography that we're so privileged to take part of every summer or every fall or every spring as we come into your parks, your schools, and your homes has that feeling. And as we get closer and closer, as we'd be in Seeley Lake or Missoula or St. Ignatius of Charlotte, everyone would start to feel this kind of choked up feeling as you knew that soon we'd be leaving. That all this hard work and this magical time of telling stories every day would be coming to an end. And you see people taking longer looks at the sky or the sunset or the sunrise, knowing that this wonderful season in these wonderful communities and this amazing state of Montana was coming to an end. And anyone who's done the tour misses it and the friends and family we've made there desperately. We hope you're all so well and so safe. And thank you for these opportunities to reminisce and recollect. And I hope that Shakespeare in the Parks will get to see you soon, and that we can continue this story. And can't wait till that happens. Bye.